Welcome to TiffDoesLoans Podcast. Today I have my girl, Constance Woo. How are you?
Good.
Thank you so much for coming in. Constance is the founder of the Tax Renegade, and she has over 10 years of, she is just the go-to tax expert, over 10 years of experience.
Yes.
So I brought her in today. Now that we're coming into the end of the year, where everyone's like, getting their taxes done. This is my girl who I've only been self-employed for, like a year and a half. So she is who I found to and trust to take care of my stuff. So we're going to go through some misconceptions, just how to get started, how to get everything lined up so you are getting the best tax breaks, benefits, all that good stuff as you continue through the year and have everything set up. So thank you.
Of course.
We need this. We need more and more people like you. So, Constance, why don't you just start by, telling us how you got started and just kind of, you're the founder of your own business. So, how did you get into that?
I've always been kind of a little bit of an entrepreneur, I did my friend's eyebrows. I had the spirit. I did my friend's eyebrows for $5,
Oh my gosh.
during lunchtime in middle school.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like it starts at a young age.
Oh, yeah.
Just always looking how to grow.
Yeah, exactly. But essentially, my birthday is April 14th.
Okay.
And so my dad would always say, hey, I'm sorry I can't get your birthday present yet this year because I have to get the tax refund. Like, what is this tax thing?
Yeah.
So as I was going through school and looking for professions, I was like, I need this tax thing sounds really important, especially if my birthday's around it. And so as I learned it, I learned that tax is super pivotal. It's very complex. It includes accounting and law. And so there's a lot of things that change. And so when I was looking into it, I was like, hey, I kind of have a knack for accounting and numbers, but I really love the economics and puzzles and intricacy of taxes. So I kind of ended up down this route.
We love that because we do not.
Yeah, we do not. So it's really funny. Yeah. One of my old coworkers is like, you really like reading? I was like, yeah, I like figuring things out.
Oh my gosh.
So you need someone in tax that likes to figure things out and isn't intimidated by it.
Yeah.
But essentially, I worked over 10 years at the top 50 firms. I cycled through a few firms just to make sure I was learning the right things from many types of professionals. And some of my clients were Tilly's, Kawasaki, some of the big companies I can actually name, along with others, venture capital groups. So I learned a lot of different types of things, as well as building up certain firm practices like international tax. So I'm a big nerd. Yeah.
So just all of it, like well-rounded. And you've also got all the information like from the best, which I love. Yeah.
So
and I kind of made it into your own. When did you go on your own then? So after, how did that come about when you finally made that decision? Like, I'm going to build this now.
Yeah, so basically, just being a woman in business and the type of personality I am, I wanted to move to the top, as well as some of my partners wanted me to advance as well. Yeah. But when you're in an industry that's just changing so much in the last 10 years, right, with Obama, Trump, all the different changes, pandemic. Actually, even before that, there's a lot of law changes. So tax is not what it used to be in the 90s. Yeah. And so there's a lot of consolidations. A lot of firms are buying one another. And I just started getting frustrated at some of the red tape, right? Traditionally in law firms and accounting firms, you need to work a certain amount of billable hours. Yeah. And a lot of them some of them, I don't want to say all of them, some of them treat certain clients as their top clients, while the bottom layer, they don't really give them as much attention. Someone like you, you need to know which firm you're hiring, so you know you're getting the service you need. So I started getting frustrated. Like I thought about, that could be my dad. That could be my brother opening a small business.
Like an independent contractor.
Yeah, an independent contractor.
We don't have that much, and probably we're going to need the most help.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we don't have any of the backing, and most of us just kind of like go into it like, hey, I'm just going to start a business, especially like in real estate. Like everybody goes into like real estate not having any experience and then like basically becoming a broker or becoming so it's just like jumping in.
So there's two pivotal points. There's two pivotal points. One of them was when my director was overselling to a small business owner, and I knew that he wasn't going to be our top 50% client. And so the price just didn't match the service we were going to give, which was fine. I was doing everything in my power because I was managing the client. And then the second instances that just happened over time is because they need me to hit a certain amount of hours. If something's on my schedule, but I found that I want to give better service, I felt the pressure, at least in the environments I was in, I felt the pressure that I couldn't reach out and give proper service because my manager might say, hey, you know, it doesn't matter. They're only going to save $1,000.
Exactly.
There's no point of us reaching out to them for this because it's not a big deal. What that $1,000 can be an extra security system for that business. That $1,000 can be a lot of things for a lot of people.
Yeah. I love that heart on that.
Yeah.
I was the same. I worked for a big retail first.
Yes.
So it's a very big engine and it's fast. And I would get that a lot too. Like, you just have to throw it back. Like, I'm like, well, I'm going to help them like build their credit and change it. But they're like basically, a little frowned upon. Like, well, you can't do it. So, you know, you need to keep moving and get somebody in qualified.
Yes.
But I do love that aspect too. Like, even if I can set them up. And, you know, later then, even if I'm not getting it now, I'd rather get them on the right track.
My favorite part, why I went into business, is to help people.
Yep.
And so tax is very complicated. So it's great you need someone to do tax. But if your tax person is just plugging in numbers and not checking in with you, I want to build
like
businesses.
H&R blockers.
Exactly. I want to build businesses with my clients. So like we talked about before.
She's going to help. Yeah, she's helping me.
We talked before. If I invest in people, I'm a different type of person. Like, I'm an extrovert tax person, number one. And number two is I get very invested in people. So even my book of business, I want to make sure it's listed with people I feel I'm also investing in you. Right? When we're hiring a lawyer, when we're hiring someone, we want someone to feel invested in us and vice versa. Right? If I'm giving you my time and my knowledge and even my effort and watching your business and going through the seasons with you, like, I want you to want to grow, right? And I want to be part of that journey. That's the enjoyable part for me. That's why I started going down business. Enjoying taxes, but you know, it's unfortunate. Some parts of the industry are not as pretty as other parts. Yes.
And I love that. I met her at an event and instantly, and I've been, you know, it's so hard to kind of find, we're going to go into that next. Like, how do you find the right, you know, because there's so many different names, accountant, taxes, like, do you need a bookkeeper? Like, for me, you know, I went from W-2 to self-employed. So, you know, the first year I just did like Schedule C, but now that I'm growing my business, there's so many different aspects that we talked about. So it's like, and hers is also, she's offering to help me get my business organized. That would be more like accounting, right? Kind
That's
of
more
in
like
a sense.
Management
So
accounting.
she's going to kind of also not just do my taxes, but she's getting me set up so the next year and it's also like, and they're organized for you. Like, if you put in the time with your people and to get them. So I just thought that was incredible. And I'd been looking for a long time, and you said extrovert, right? So we both met at this event, and it was like instant. I'm like, I need you. Like, I've been looking for you. I was like, I know you just met me, but I've been looking for you.
So, within the first like few minutes, right? Like,
she
it was
came
2 minutes.
super late. Like, and I left a little early, but like literally when we sat down, I was already like, I need you to come on my podcast. I need you to do my taxes. Like, how do I do all of this stuff? So it was like instant. And then after our phone call, I was like, yes, please. So, how would our like audience, how did they find, what is the difference between, you know, everyone says find like CPA, and then maybe what are some differences as to like going to a big, like an H&R Block or something? Like, absolutely. What would, like, why should they kind of go more, I guess for us, it would be more like the broker side versus like retail, but in your industry, like, how do you guys decipher that?
Yeah, so I recommend that as a taxpayer or a business owner, even if you're a W-2 person, if you're actually going to hire someone to consult you through something, it really matters on their experience, right, and their background, and especially if you want to trust them with your social security number, everything. Your EIN. That's the big part, right? But in my industry, if you want a little insight there, is that there's all types of accountants. So people become CPAs, or even enrolled agents are more the tax specific, but not a CPA. And those are qualified to do taxes as well. But in the accounting space, a lot of people go into financial accounting and become a CPA, or even just a bookkeeper. Some people get their CPA, but they just want to be a bookkeeper. They don't want to analyze anything. They don't want to be a CFO. They're really good at the high volume bookkeeper. You need a good bookkeeper. If you're at the volume you need a good bookkeeper, right? Because they're good at making sure things are detailed and organized. Whereas you'll have some people that do financial accounting and they learned a little bit of tax, and they can do a certain amount of tax, but they don't have such as myself, I have about 19,000 hours of supervised work under tax people, nonstop tax, right? So looking into code sections, code section 179, code section 951 for international tax, being able to connect the dots between different codes of the section, because one might dictate the other, right? There's certain laws, so it's like related to more laws. So you have what I like to call a career tax professional versus someone that does financial accounting. And both can be really great. It really depends on what your needs are, which is why it's really important to figure out what you want, what you need, and interview me, like what you need and my experience. If my experience can match your needs, that's a great relationship. And there's just some people, well, H&R Block, like you said, so let's go into that.
What would be the difference?
So I would say H&R Block and Intuit and TurboTax are great platforms to make it affordable, right? People that do W-2s that need a couple deductions.
That's when I did it. When it was easy and I could do it on myself.
Yeah, and you have a second. Have a quick second look on your W-2 to make sure you input everything correctly. That's great. You're paying for professional eyes, right? And in the same light, when you're paying for a proper tax advisor, a tax consultant, and a preparer, you're also paying for their professional expertise. You're paying for their accumulated experience and being able to spot things that you don't. That's
what you don't get from kind of doing it yourself. That's why, like, when I had the W-2, it was easy enough, and like I already knew what I was getting back, and like it wasn't. I think I made like $75,000 a year, or like on paper. So I did it myself. But then I'm like, now that I'm getting into different, like I need somebody to be able to put me in the right brackets and to know like where I'm going. Like I told you too, like, look, I'm here, but
in the next
like 3 to 6 months I'm looking here. So just like have it in the, you know, and now you're already kind of like you're planning that.
So the client
and you can't get that.
You can't get that like
from doing it yourself or online.
Exactly. I'll give you an example. So tax accountants are able to form entities all the time. A lot of people might go to a lawyer to open an S corp or whatever it is. Their fees are astronomically higher than mine, but mine are reasonable. And I'll give you an example. So Busy and Inkfile, great companies, but they're made to be mass produced, right? And so I have a client that hired me recently. He thought he did an S election. He did it through Busy, like a big box type of platform. LegalZoom,
like all online.
Like all online.
Is it like a
you can do like things online, but they'll it's all marketing, right? They charge, they're like free and charging state filing fees. That's the way it is. If I work with you, literally it's just the state filing fees. Federal is free because we can apply for an EIN together. You're paying for professional eyes to make sure it gets done on time, and it goes to the right platform for the agencies. What happened with my client, he thought he filed an S election, and his S election got rejected because of these big box places, right? Just like certain platforms like LegalZoom. I have an attorney that's my client, actually. They do trust and estates, etc. You have LegalZoom where people are doing trusts, setting up trusts, but you don't have the certain statements that are state specific. So there's certain things that you're not getting out of that, and then when you go backtrack and fix things, it's going to cost you tens of $1,000s more when you are willing to pay the price up front. That's much smaller in retrospect, right? And so that's what is really the value.
No, 100%. I'm all for giving experts. I don't like, I love like how everything's online and stuff, but I think of that like, man, if you do something wrong or click the wrong box and something, or just, you know, like I wouldn't expect somebody to pick the right program or anything for them, like in my business. Like that's what I'm here for. Like give me the basic information, and then
it's the same thing as the structural engineers, right? Yeah, you might figure out how to make something yourself, but structural engineer is going to make sure it doesn't fall because of their expertise.
100%.
And there are just certain types of professions that it's just better not to do those platforms. By all means, technology is great. I use Canva. I love it. We love Canva. We love Canva. But
that is definitely all these. There are a lot of systems out there that like make being a business owner or like marketing, all of this stuff.
And we want that
legal. I really think, or even like the loan. You know, some people go online there. I can't remember. It was like Better Mortgage or something. They just used to like, it was all more online. Like you couldn't actually get to like an actual loan officer. And they're just like pumping out these qualifications. And I'm like, do not. That is going to unravel. Like if there's anything that's going to pop up later, you might be in a contract already. And now it's going to be just 10 times worse than, you know, maybe finding out something in the beginning, reworking it. So,
and I'll give you an example, right? We're talking about S corps, right? And so you have these big box places, or even, and I'll bring this up right now, crazy Instagrammers that promise like zero taxes. I will be very aware, wary, because the IRS actually publishes every year their 12 dirty dozen tax scams, so they're actually very aware and
of what's happening. What one of the items, by like a tax scam?
So, for example, IRS. If you look up online, just type in IRS Dirty Dozen for 2024, and they call it the Dirty Dozen. It's their 12 areas that are potential scams that they've seen. Like people can look up your business, right? That's why people hire a registered agent. Like put a registered agent on your thing on your application. So you would either get your CPA to do it, your accountant, or someone that has a business that is willing to be a registered agent, and their business address will be on there instead of your personal. And what happens a lot of the times is you can be searched up online. Your businesses are searchable, and so they might send you a notice that looks like the IRS. That's why I had a client, they thought they were paying past due taxes and they paid it to a fraudulent person. So when you call the right tax professional, hey, can you double check that this is the right agency's number? We all know we all know where to look. And a second item on this year's list is all the Instagram and social media advice, right? I like to say there's a lawyer that says I'm a lawyer but I'm not your lawyer, right? Just the same. I'm a tax professional, but I'm not your tax professional until we discuss and talk through scenarios. Because what you get from talking to someone that's not cookie cutter is, as I'm listening to your situation, if it's over online and you're doing it yourself, we might get down a path to topic D, and during topic A or B we thought we were going down route 1, but as I'm getting to know your full scope of situations, even your financial goals tax wise, I might realize, because of the item D thing that you want to do, we have to go down route 2 now.
100%.
Or there's a timing thing where you're currently at a certain threshold, you would like to be an S corp eventually, but you don't need to be that now. It's costly to file an S corp return, more costly, and there's rules to maintain S corp status. But you have all these Instagrammers,
and that's why you want somebody like you. Like we even talked about that. I told you that somebody did tell me that I should create an S corp, and we kind of broke down. But for you to, that's when the professional, because same kind of thing with my like loan process. I'm like, I can like give me the basic information, but I can really only know when I get your whole scenario. Because granted, yes, this is what you want, but let's see where you are. So, and let's kind of build that map. But that's like huge to connect, especially in your taxes, for somebody to tell you like, look, yes, but you only want to do this when you get to X amount, because it's actually going to cost, it's going to be more costly to you. And that's like, that's what I loved about like working with you. And you gave that comfort to me,
Yeah.
where I'm like, okay, good. Because a lot of people, you know, I got that from some real estate guy. That
and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I need to do now? Like,
well, you know, he's a commercial agent and he's done it. So one day he's like, oh, no, don't do an LLC. Do an S Corp. And I'm like, I just became self-employed. I'm like, okay. So then I start walking around like, no, I'm going to do an S Corp. And this other guy's like, don't do that. Yeah. So it's like, it really depends on who you talk to. So it's I'm all about going to the professional.
I have two things, right? Yeah. Like, number one, if anyone ever fear mongers you, don't work with them. Right? Yes. There's a good level of proper aggression, because I have to be aggressive with my clients to make sure they get their stuff done. I'm here to help make sure. Get your stuff done, girl. Right?
That's how I am too.
Right? So you have the accountability aspect, but they shouldn't be fear mongering you. No. If you're ever making a decision under fear or emotion, it's 100%. Very unreasonable, right? I'm a very emotional person, but when it comes to business, like, don't do anything in emotion, right? If people are using that, tell me some code number, tell me some law, tell me something that are the rules, right? And a second thing, like we said about the differences between financial accountants that do a little bit of tax versus career tax professionals, depending on what type of business and what you need, a proper tax professional, because tax is traditionally not just numbers, it's a lot more economics and law. So I have a bachelor's in business economics and a minor in accounting. And so traditionally, tax people in the field, the most successful ones are ones able to draw out the client's cost benefit analysis, right? And so that's what I do in my discussions. Let's do the cost benefit analysis. Let's talk about the goals. Let's talk about a couple routes you want to take 100%. And what you're comfortable with. There's also risk assumption. How risky do you want to be, right? If you want to be an LLC and make deals, sure. If you want to be an S Corp and your risk, I have risk adverse clients all the time. They're like, I don't mind paying the extra money to be an S Corp because I really want to protect these assets that I have, right? And so there's certain levels of, there's some. I'm just going to throw things at you. She's going to have that.
I'm like, girl, do whatever. I'm easy though. Because like once I'm with a professional that I can trust.
Yes.
Like if the trust is there, like you could walk me through and explain it to me. But at the same time, I'm like, here are the keys. Yes. You are driving.
And as a business owner,
be in a good spot, girl. Give me all the tax benefits, all the breaks.
And as a business owner, you want to be empowered, right? Yep. There are some people, it's okay. They're more of what you want to call a sheep and they follow along. Just tell me what to do. That's great. I have some clients that do that. But at the same time, because of my past experience with service to my clients, I want to be able to have a clean conscience that I did my due diligence, what we call lookup due diligence. That's a good word. I did my due diligence to make sure I laid out all the options for you, and I want you empowered to make sure you know what type of decision you're making and we're making it together, versus a lot of people like, oh, you don't really need that. I'm like, well, why? Right? Why? Like,
and that's why you're set aside.
Yes.
And that's why you're my girl.
Yes. Well, that's the biggest part people don't realize. Like a career tax professional is one that's able to spot things like, hey, you know, I did have another client in this field, and when they had another accountant do this, and I'll tell you this, yesterday I signed an engagement letter with a client. No name dropping here, but he worked with a certain Instagrammer that says, and he always promotes things like the legal way to get zero taxes. He's all over Instagram. I see his ads everywhere.
Okay, I'll just show me after.
I'll show you after. But he's all over Instagram, and he says, like I did venture capital, and I'll tell you about insights to industries. He's like, I did millions of dollars of deals and blah 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 blah, and he's selling courses. Courses are great when you're in certain fields. Some coaches are great at selling courses, and it's needed, but there are some people in this space I would be wary, because he's over promising something that he can't guarantee. He's not signing your return, etc. My client hired his company to form his entities. They did no due diligence to make sure your client, like a proper professional should be like, hey, that's why I want to walk you through being a good business owner. If we're working together, I want you to be a good business owner because I'm invested in you, right? And they had no contact.
Get me organized.
Yes.
And make sure that everything's...
It's not even just organized. It's like getting you...
Like sailing.
Yes.
Sailing.
I'm getting you elevated in your business acumen, not just organized, right? Yeah. And so what happened here, he thought he was paying us for a certain service. Guess what? 10 years later, because he thought certain things were taken care of and they didn't really explain things to him, I'm going to help solve a $95,000 accumulation of penalties across the board.
Oh my
God. Federal penalties, California penalties for this business, and personal federal and personal California all added up together, $95,000 of penalties.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so
that's sad.
That's what I'm saying, is that's why it's part of IRS's dirty dozen, and people don't know that. I, as a trained professional, how I was trained and when you're playing basketball, I'll just say this, like if you want to be a basketball player, are you going to hire a former NBA player or someone that only play high school league? What are you going to do?
An MBA.
Yeah. And so when the way
give me that
right? Analogies here. And so when I trained, I wanted to make sure I was under certain tax partners I could learn the best skills from. 100%. I was like, you know this, I'm learning under you. Yeah. I want to work on all your projects. I want to work on that Tilly's account, right? I want to work on that big account because I'm going to learn everything from you.
And those are they're the hardest.
Yes, those are the hardest.
Those are also, they have so many different avenues.
So that's what the difference is you have. And especially this person that advertises online, oh, I did all these groups. In venture capital industry, a lot of them, when they make deals, they want it all over the internet. So you should be able to look them up on a website and list what deals they had go down.
And then just do, and especially you know,
he didn't have them.
Yeah,
he didn't have them. So it's all marketing. It's all marketing.
And that's where it's like, I'm a really big fan of referrals, or like I put myself in the positions of like meeting people. You know, I'm always at events, so it's easier for me to like go, you know, on a Tuesday and meet you. But also it's like, that's also a part of my business. Like I'm big on the referrals, and for that reason, like, yes, Instagram is great, but I also tell my clients, you know, like, hey, if there's anything else, like I have my clients coming to me like, hey, I want to make an LLC. Like, what should I do? Where should I put this investment? And then I get them connected with a trusted somebody that, you know, they trust me and I trust them. So definitely, especially with so much going on with social media.
Yeah, I have another example. For example, like I had someone that wanted to be a nonprofit, right? They want to do some social type of work, right? And so some people are like, oh, you have to do a 501c. Some people want to make profit but have social aspects to it. And so what I told them, there's three options, right? 501c or like what they call a LC3 or L3C. I always get that confused, but it's like one of those limited liability for profit, you know, limited liability company, or a traditional 501c or a social, like B Corp, what they call a B Corp. So it's like a qualified corporation that you get the B. You see some products now have B Corp certified. It's because they're doing things for social causes. Okay. And so I was telling my client, like, she hired me for some consultation, and she was like, oh, I heard I need to do this. But I was like, hey, hold on. There's cost, like I said, cost benefit analysis here. Yes, you might think the filing is easy, but as an LLC, if your goal is to get a lot of investors, it's actually costly in the long run because you're going to have to file K1s, right? And you have to track it a certain way. But people don't think about that. It's like, depending on what you want to do in business, how you want to move money around, how you want to move your actual product, if you have a product or your service business, there's differences, right? And so some people, they're like, oh, but I need to be this kind of company. And so I told her, well, you would incentivize, that's why you want someone with proper economics thinking. If you want to incentivize people to donate, you would want to be a 501c because then they can actually write it off on their charitable contribution, right? Perfect. But then if your goal is to find certain investors and your goal is to do X activity and still make a little money, and you're okay with the extra work and paying that because you want the flexibility, then that's what you want. It's cost benefit. Really, it's not
depends,
all. Yes, it's just all the variables.
Best.
Yeah,
like just get with a tax expert. It's needed. And then so as we come into like this, you know, we're almost back to tax season.
We are already in tax season, what I call it.
Like right now, I know she's like, no, we're getting started now. So, and that was like in November, or I don't know, maybe about a month ago. But so just kind of what we talked about, and I did make a list of a few things that maybe people like self-employed, maybe some of these misconceptions or myths that you can clear up for us.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I have a few here. Okay, so somebody coming in, if I make less than 600 on a side hustle, basically I don't need to report that. So like say you're self-employed. is that true or false, or do we need to?
Yes, you need to report it, even if it's like $40.
But if it's like a side hustle, yeah. So
IRS says, the code says, if it's a side hustle, it's still counted because you're receiving income for a service.
So how would you have to do that? Would it be like you create a Schedule C for like $40?
Yeah, you just put a Schedule C in for $40, and then you can write off a little bit of another expense. Okay. Right? And the advantage long run, if you ever want to get a mortgage, personal mortgage. I know you had a guy with SBA. But if you want to get a personal mortgage, you can show that you're an entrepreneur. You do activities, right? Yeah. Yes, there's the risk benefit analysis. I hear it all the time. Certain tax professionals, oh, you don't have to report it. Cool. Yeah, okay.
But it might come back later, especially with like Venmo and stuff. Oh yeah, Venmo. All this stuff. Okay, that's gonna be a later topic. Yes, yes. I do want to get into Venmo. I know, like, I don't know all the rules on it, but I know that that's changing too, where now you have to report. I mean, I pay all my rent through there. Yeah. So, like, for my whole everybody. So, yeah, they haven't like sent me anything, but I mean, hopefully it shows.
Yeah, so it just depends on your. Some taxpayers do their own tax return and they don't report it. You're just assuming the risk, and if you're like, I don't want them to come back and slap something, because when they slap something on you, they can. Well,
you're not going to let them slap anything.
It's not even just 1 year. They can go back a few years. Yeah. If they feel like you're a fraudulent person, they can open up to 7 years. Oh, and that's just for federal. If California deems you as a fraudulent person. Yeah. Yeah.
That's gnarly. And, okay, so this is big, like even when I became self-employed, and now almost everybody has a home office. Yes. So so basically, if having a home office increases my audit risk, is this true?
No, actually, as long as you do proper record keeping.
So we have to keep it. Is it a certain amount? Like, will they make us send photos? Because when I had to qualify my space, she told me the amount, or like, I don't know. It needs to be
usually
like a certain
it's 300 square foot. Okay. If your property is a lot smaller, there's other methods. There's another method you can do. It's a little technical, but there's a few methods you can do. The major part is, I like my clients taking pictures. Take a picture, put it in our shared files. Okay, so perfect. I have a copy of it, and we can prove, like, hey, she sent it to me on this date. Yes. And if they ever audit, like, I'm ready. Okay. I'm ready to go.
I love that.
Like, don't mess with us.
I'm a planner. Right? I know. We're vibing because she's just
because the biggest
part, set me up for success.
Yeah. As long as you record keep. As long as you record keep, you're reasonable. That's the most important part.
Okay, and this is also a big one. I don't need receipts. So I don't need receipts because I pay everything with a credit card for a business. So I was on this.
We talked about this when we first met. I was like, girl, you need your receipts.
I was on the first. This first section of people, I was definitely in this first group to where I just thought, like, okay, well, I'm using the same credit card. But now I do keep all of my receipts. Yes. So,
and you can make it simple. You could digitize it, put it in a folder by date, right? The major part about that is it is not true. We must keep our receipts. What credit cards do is prove that you paid it, right? Yeah. But they want. What if you lumped it together and you put something in the receipt that that does not qualify for business expense? So you want to keep your receipts. If you pay something online, I recommend, if they don't ever send you a confirmation, screen print. Okay. Right, screen print what you print. The confirmation pages sometimes at the end. Yeah. I don't wait till
that's what I do.
I don't wait till it comes to my email. I print it and I keep a PDF copy, and then the receipts also show.
That's why you're so organized. The odds of all of us doing that are probably slim to none. But I am pretty organized, so I don't know if I'll do the PDF, but I take screenshots and then they sit in my photo bucket for a long time. But the other thing I was looking for is I've seen and I saw it on Instagram and then I never saw it again, but I really wanted it where it was supposed to be like an app where you take pictures of your receipts and then it's like So to help you file.
Yeah. So those apps
I couldn't
are great.
find it again, and I found a couple, but they don't seem very reliable. So I didn't do them.
No. Okay. I mean, those apps are great, but what I would say is just like certain applications, if they go under, where's your stuff going to go, right?
Stuff going?
And even I had a lot of IT clients, or even working at a big firm, we had IT rules, right? Even if you have something on your phone, we all have iCloud, right? Or we all have some backup system. You need a backup system. I save things in 2 places all the time, which is why with my clients, I make sure you give, even you're like, oh, I have my receipts. So I was like, no, save your copies in my drives, because in case something happens to you, I have the records too, right? In case.
So then I just send you my receipts too, or put it in like a mutual.
We have everything. I'm gonna have everything set up. Yeah.
Okay, and then this is big, because I do this too, and I feel like most people do, that we can write off everything, like 100% of all the meals and entertainment. Like, just throw it on the company card.
Yeah, so.
Does it matter if it's alcohol? Because I've heard, does that depend?
It depends.
On certain, like, companies, or how
as
does that
long
work?
as it's reasonable.
I see... especially working in the bar industry before, some people I would actually split their checks and put all the alcohol over here, and then they put all the food on one. So is that like a tax thing? Like, are we only, as business owners, are we only able to write off the food?
So entertainment is 100% not deductible. It's not deductible at all. What they call
and would alcohol be entertainment?
No, alcohol is considered food and beverage, but it has to be reasonable, right?
But you can't have like $1,900 bottle of like 1942.
That's not reasonable. But let's just say, like I said, again, it depends on your business. If you're a sports agent or something like that in the entertainment industry, it might make sense depending on the deal you're trying to sign, right? Okay. But you have to be able to prove everything. That's the point. You have to be able to prove that it was reasonable, that you had approval from the company. If you're an employee doing the transaction, you have to have all these things. But it's 50% deductible. During COVID, the government made it 100% deductible for meals, and so but it's back and reverted to 50% deductible. It has to be reasonable.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. But
COVID,
so there's another thing. There's another thing that people
are there a lot of switches between COVID and now?
Oh, there are several. Okay. Yeah, it's too much to talk about right now. But I would say the biggest part some people don't understand is there's GAAP and book accounting versus tax accounting. The tax accounting is a number that you report on your taxes, and there's book to tax. As a business owner, like something like meals and entertainment, you could 100% write it off on your books, because that's just how you balance everything. But you'll have a tax number that is non-deductible, so it's 50% non-deductible. Okay. So books and records are super important. There's accounting methods and things that you need to track. So it's super important. But
so the more we track, the better it is for you to get us in the right spot. And I love this one too, because after we talked about it, that did I didn't know that, but an extension means that you can pay your taxes later. So I was under the impression, because I have a lot of clients, if they have like after April 14th, or I think it's been pushed to April 18th, right? I think we've been a later date. But whatever the tax day is, if you were in the middle of a loan process and it is not funded by that date, like say you fund on the 19th and taxes are due the 18th, you will need the 15th. So if they were done the 15th and you fund your loan on the 16th, you will have to have your taxes filed. Like there is a no-go unless you have the extension, which is like in October. So that's always like been something that I look out for, and I tell them like it's not, because that will make or break our deal. Especially if you can't do your taxes. Some people can do them, but a lot of self-employed, if you don't have the money up front, you want to put it to October. So what exactly is the benefit there? Like if you can't pay them in October?
Well, you can always go on a payment plan, right? No matter what time you file it. And so the biggest
do you do them in first?
So you would do an estimate. So what you call it, if someone wants to go on extension, I have a lot of clients, maybe they're waiting for a K1. Maybe your 1099 investments like need a revision, right? They need to be superseded or amended. A lot of people, they might get their K1s later because they want to make sure the numbers are right and they don't want to have to amend it because amending is costlier, right? But they have the ballpark numbers, and then you can ballpark your actual filing dues and then pay a little bit more if you have the funds to pay a little more. That way you don't accumulate paying like tax paid penalties. So there's different types of penalties. There's failure to file penalty, and then there's failure to pay. When you file your extension, you're eliminating your failure to file penalty as long as you file by the extended deadline. But then does not mean you're not going to accumulate failure to pay penalties. And let's say, for example, if a client owes even $1,000 as of April 15th or March 15th if you're a pass-through business, right? And then it's just going to accumulate for federal and for California.
And you get hit with fees. So even if you have an extension in October, but you don't
pay what's due.
You don't pay what's due, you will get fees on you.
Yes. So people don't realize.
I did not know that. I thought that you were just kind of throwing the documents
and this
aside.
is another.
I thought that you were throwing them aside until October. Like, hey, I'm not going to, maybe in my industry more so it would be like, I'm not going to have that, 10 grand to pay until maybe in like.
You want to prioritize taxes. Like I'm here to debunk things. And one other item to follow up, because it's one of the common pitfalls items that we're talking about with extensions, is because the reason why if you don't pay at the filing deadline at the latest is because IRS and California and many states have these other rules called quarterly estimated payments. When you're a business owner, what they're saying is, if you were making $100,000 and the tax might be, let's say 22% on that, right? 22K. They're saying if you are estimating at Q1 that you might be making 100K, in Q1 you should be paying 25% of the 22K. And then in Q2, if it's going to be similar, if it's not fluctuating,
I feel
you should
like
pay
I
another
would
25%.
want that.
Right.
And we talked about that too.
Yeah, we
if
talked
I
about
could
that.
just set myself up.
Exactly.
But it's not, everybody's business is not as cookie cutter as that.
No.
Like, I don't sell a product. I sell a service.
Exactly.
So, the market.
Which is why
it could be like I could have 3 great months and then a bad month. And then, same thing anywhere in real estate.
So that's why you need proof. Like you need a tax accountant that can show proof. Like I have clients that they fluctuate all throughout the year. So in Q1, they think they're going to make 100K. So they pay their Q1 25% of the 22K, right, on personal. And then they also need to make the different percentage for California. And then they need to do it on the entity for California. If it's passed through going up to your personal, you need to make it's like a lot of layers, right? And then let's say Q2, you're like, oh my goodness, Q2 went so well, I'm actually going to be projected to make 200K. Now we have to adjust the number, but you want proof that you made a calculation and you did your due diligence. You made the effort and they call it good faith, right?
Okay.
Good faith taxpayer
like
attitude, right?
I love that.
So the IRS wants good faith. They're not out to get you. They just want you to do the right thing, right? I mean, some people will say, some of them are maybe, they got Al Capone through IRS, okay? So if you're a criminal, do your taxes. I'm just kidding. But basically, a lot of people have that misconception. Even I have some clients right now, they're attorneys or other things, and they didn't even learn this, right? But the thing is, because it's so case by case and how you do it,
I love that.
Paying for your quarterly estimates to be taken care of, even having proof between you and your tax accountant of an email, hey, I did your estimates, nothing has really changed, you paid enough, and this is the reason why.
I love that, and that, it just makes me feel good that they look at like the effort. Can we just please get a little credit for being organized?
So the cost benefit is that the benefit far exceeds the cost, because when you file your return, let's say you file your return thinking that you're only making 100K, and at Q4 you made like 400K, crazy jump, right? Let's hope, right? Let's hope, manifest. But let's say
yes, please.
So you make like 400K at the end, and then your tax account makes a proper Q4 calculation. You pay a lot in Q4. You should be paying into Q4, not waiting until tax filing, because there's a certain bridge between that's acceptable for a big jump, right? And so let's say you have that. The IRS will have a form to eliminate penalties, saying you did your due diligence and you file every column for every quarter what you estimated, but you need someone to sign off on the proof, whether you're doing it yourself.
And that would be you?
Yeah, you need someone, either if you do it yourself, a lot of time, I do mine at my own, but then I email it to myself, so there's a timestamp.
Oh,
right?
love that. Okay.
Because sometimes people, if you're getting audited by the IRS and you're like taking forever to furnish documents, they're gonna smell something fishy with you, right?
Yeah.
And even I tell clients, like, even I brought in 2 new clients recently because their tax accountants weren't doing this because they're in restaurant business or it's a towing business,
it's fluctuating.
Right? It fluctuates. And I'm like, they should at least contact you in Q3 or Q4 and prepare for, do we have a number that we think you might pay or you might earn? Let me base off of that what you did pay. And even if you didn't pay anything, and in their head they can do the calculation, which I know a lot of people can do as tax professionals, they should at least email you, hey, based on your projected income of this amount,
it should be X,
you are paid enough in right now. And so maybe let's wait until Q4.
Love that.
Or let's wait until like anything happens, then tell me, right? You want that.
I know. And that is that, like, these little things, like, I love the preparation and it's just so important. And I see it, like, especially how things have been, you know, it's stressful, but it's like everywhere we turn now, fee. Like, everything you do, it's like, yes, it might seem a little more costly upfront to maybe, you know, choose somebody with, you know, your expertise, of course, like, you know, we're paying for the whole service, but ultimately, you know, it's going to be more costly if you skip ahead on these things, don't stay organized, don't have any of this stuff lined up, because then at the end, it's like, now there's all these like fees accumulating and you're just like getting hit around like every corner. And it's like, especially nowadays, it's like, you know, it's just everything has raised so much to, it's like you get in trouble or you file something wrong and now it's like goes up like 90, like I just had it, my insurance, I have not gotten a ticket in six to 7 years, and I didn't do that traffic school because honestly I never have before, but it went up 91%.
That's like, crazy.
That's absolutely insane. We will talk about that later, but that was just mind-boggling to me. But you hear it more and more in all of these sections, you know, or even we talked about like putting it in the trust and just a ton of avenues to where it's like we're just trying to get things set up, but then boom, it's like now you didn't do this, like now you another $500, $2,000, like you don't even know what you're being hit with. I feel
and
like
even if you end up paying, even if you end up, well, I like to say a lot of people hire lawyers and tax accountants because they just want to make sure they're being covered, right? Even if you're going to pay, the difference is going to end up the same. At least along the journey, you made sure you had someone in your corner to make sure everything was going okay,
100%.
right? So it's not even just, so I'm here to debunk, right? And my industry is notorious for gatekeeping. That's why I left on my own, because I was tired of hearing some of my superiors just being, oh, it's okay, it's something you wouldn't understand. Well, you can explain a little bit to get peace of mind, right? Which is why my tagline is managing taxes and maximizing peace of mind. It isn't zeroing out taxes and being fraudulent.
No.
It's managing taxes and maximizing peace of mind. Yeah.
So I want to give our audience, or just like coming into this season, what is the best way to prepare for this tax season? And if they just started a business. So kind of like me. So we've kind of tapped on it a little bit. But if they're new, maybe say it's their first. Like this will be my first full year doing it the right way, like finally getting paid type thing, because like technically I did it last year, but again but what's your advice for them to best prepare?
Best prepare by finding the right tax professional, someone that matches your business sense, someone that you trust, being proactive. So you can learn only a certain amount, right? And you should educate yourself. I'm not going to gatekeep. I explain things to my clients thoroughly, but at the end of the day, you still need me to watch for everything and calculate the numbers, right? And make sure that the laws as they change are not affecting your situation dramatically, 100%. Right?
That's
and so
huge.
That's huge. So you want to make sure you have someone. And I would also recommend, as a business owner, you need multiple advisors. You need a lawyer, you need a business advisor. I'm a business advisor as well because I have other business skills, you know, in addition to taxes. So a lot of what I like to do with my clients is to make sure we're growing together and I enhance your business skill set on top of just making sure your taxes are taken care of, right?
Do you kind of work with them as well?
Yeah. So when I have a client that pays me for full service. So we have a quick meeting every month, and he just talks about other business things. And for example, I helped him with a lot of payroll solutions, minimizing certain expenses. I was like, you're paying too much for this service that you're not getting out of it, and let's restructure and bring a lot of your entities under the same type of organizational skill set, right? And so organization, and when you say organization, it's not just being clean, right? Organization as in your organization, and your like business, a process, your business like processes, you have a system. So at like a lot
system in place,
exactly. So when I was at a lot of some of my old firms, some of the smaller firms I was at, like I helped build tax manuals, procedures. I helped train other associates. I helped build processes that made it easier to run our practice. I even built an international practice alongside with a tax attorney. And so that's one thing. Second thing is making sure you don't cut corners. I know that some people, the way they say it, they're like, this person's so expensive, I can't afford this. It's all cost benefit analysis and where you value something, right? And so think about it as, if I, in the short term, don't invest in myself and my business to make sure I have the right people around me, it'll cost you more in the long run. So you can find solutions as open a new credit card for your business that qualifies for a certain amount, put it on your credit card that you don't have to pay for 12 months. Don't do that like in a crazy way, obviously. Don't be super crazy in spending.
Do a bunch of them.
But you can pay your tax person through certain means that you can use Klarna, right? Where you pay in installments, right? And so there's methods to make sure you get the right person around you.
Okay, love that. And that she is available
as
well. And then what are some tax benefits of buying an EV before year end?
Let me pause for sure. Yeah, you can take the credits basically. So basically, I would say you can optimize business expenses. So let's run through just business expenses in general. So there's some things that you can do by 415 by the filing deadline, which is like if you're a sole proprietor, you can put into a SEP IRA if you maxed out a Roth. Or some people like SEP IRAs over Roths. It just depends on your preference, right?
I've heard a lot of back and forth on
it. It depends on your preference. And SEP IRAs reported on your personal return, and it's an adjustment to AGI versus on your business. There's also things you can do for business expense. I would say you can, what they like to call it is tax loss harvesting. It sounds bad because we don't want to harvest organs. But tax loss harvesting, if you're a big investor and you have a lot of annuities and accounts, and like just like you're in the market and you see a lot of losses coming through and you're making a lot of income on your business, you have to match a lot of different types of activities you're doing, right? And so you're like, okay, I'm making a lot of income on my business, but in my investments here, I'm taking a lot of losses. Sell those losses to your comfort level so you can offset for your total income, right? And so, but there you can run the risk of wash sales. You can help
with these strategies.
So if like, hey, like your broker or like your financial advisor